Hi, everyone. I'm Moira Forbes, and welcome to The Takeaway. Joining me today is Payal Kadakia, founder of ClassPass. Payal launched the company in 2013, and since then went on to revolutionize the fitness industry, creating the online booking platform for fitness classes that gives members unprecedented access and flexibilities with their workouts. The company has scaled to extraordinary heights. Payal is going to talk to us about her journey to innovate and scale the company, the next chapter in the company's journey, but she's also going to dig in and share some of her hard-earned wisdom for entrepreneurs, whether that be mastering a pivot and continuing to stay flexible as companies and marketplace continues to evolve, but also her journey and what it represents for female founders. Payal, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Moira. Always love catching up with you.
I want to start off because the past 18 months have marked a time of tremendous change across so many industries, obviously the fitness industry as well. You all began 2020 with huge, ambitious, continued growth goals. And 2 months later, COVID hit, really crippling the fitness industry like so many other industries, as I mentioned before. As you reflect back on this moment, of challenge, but also this moment where you really embraced the need to continue to adapt and evolve. What was your biggest takeaway and lesson as a leader throughout this unique moment in time?
I think it really came down to using your time wisely, right? There was no way we were going to predict what was going to happen, and we still can't. And you can't force customers to do something, right? We can't force this pandemic to go away. All we can do is do the best we can with the resources that we have at the time, which is our time and money. And, for us, we spent a lot of time, obviously, first, most important thing was to make sure our studio survived because they are our product. And then obviously getting people to work out as much as we can. And we, literally overnight flipped our product to a digital product. Wasn't obviously something we were expecting to do, but we were working on, some digital ideas that we had. And we had, a VOD product that people could work out digitally from at home. We had that up. And, on the other end of it, we really went to go help our studios, right? So we had a lot of different initiatives, whether it was like sending them revenue through live stream classes, working with the government to help get them support. That was really what we focused on. And on the other end, and I think this is really the core of, what a lot of companies had to do during this time, was figure out a way to become better during this time, right? Whether that's cutting costs, right? And like finding efficient ways to do things that you couldn't do before. And, we really think that we've come out of it better and stronger and learned things and had that sort of moment to pause, which, in any startup, usually when you're going at 500 miles per hour, you don't get a second to become clean and efficient and all of that. And we really had that time to do it and really focus in on some of the vision. So we started launching new products like wellness on there, which became a really big part of, what we now see our customers do. And I think that's really an exciting part, is giving us that time and that breath to be able to focus on the vision. So, all in all, it's definitely obviously a hard time, but I think, like I said, I think the company and the business is stronger because of it.
I think I talked to so many entrepreneurs where, we entrepreneurs are optimistic by nature. And really, I think all of us were looking for what are these silver linings. And I think, you make the great point about how important it was to go back to the fundamentals or just to kind of hit pause and reassess. Throughout this time period, you really helped shape the strategy to continue to evolve and bring the company through this really difficult and unique moment in time. Today, ClassPass announced that the company will be acquired by Mindbody, the wellness experience tech platform. Really this unique opportunity to bring together two leading players in this industry, obviously a defining moment for the company, but also a huge milestone for you as a female founder. When you look at the journey you've taken as an entrepreneur, what does this moment represent for you and for female founders?
I mean, I really think back to the day I met the Mindbody team, which, even back before 2013, when we were called Dabble Now in 2010, was when I looked up how I was going to build this idea and this concept of putting classes together. And that's when we started working with Mindbody. So this has been like a decade in the making, and the relationship and the strengths of both companies are something that, I think we both always knew there were so many synergies too. And I always really remember this one conversation. I was in Techstars at the time in 2012, and Rick, who is the founder of Mindbody, him and his wife came out to New York to meet with me and the team. We were 4 employees. We hadn't even launched our product yet. And he just, I think he could see that I really cared about what I really wanted to accomplish with the business, with the passion of getting people to class. And he said, you know what, Payal, like, go and build this. Maybe one day we'll work closely together. And look at where we are today. And I think when I think about that as an entrepreneur, like, that's truly what innovation and making a dent in the world is all about, and making this impact. And, to underscore the point about female founders, we need moments like this to celebrate, for people to know that, for young women, especially out there, to know that build any company and build an idea, women know what women need, right? Essentially. And we need to keep building ideas that foster, our own problems and help solve them. And I really want investors to know that, invest in these ideas. They can be big ideas. There's, the consumers that we know today are, so many of them are women spending so much money on experiences and products. And we really need to make sure that we're really solving the problems for all different types of people.
One of the things that I've really admired about you as an entrepreneur and building this business over the years is your ability to continue to really successfully evolve and pivot the company. The company today that we know as ClassPass was initially launched under a completely different name, Classivity. When the concept didn't evolve as you had hoped, you rebranded the initial idea. And I think it's important for entrepreneurs to know that it's rare that a business plan survives when you hit go and your plan meets reality. When you look back at your experience, how did you learn to understand when was the moment to shift gears and when is the moment to let go? Because obviously pivots are far easier said than done.
So I will tell you the story by the mistake I made in the beginning. And I think the mistake is what taught me everything, was that, I spent a year building a product. I put $500,000 into it, did a big press launch, like thinking, it was going to work. And I kind of didn't question it enough, and I think I just took all these false signals of success, that I love to say it in that way, because I think we all kind of get stuck in thinking that the amount of money you raise or emails you have or followers you have is really what is success. But I failed because when I launched my product, and this was the first version of it, which was a search engine for classes, no one went to class and I had no revenue coming in. And this lasted not just for a day, but for weeks. And at some point, I had to know as a founder, if I really wanted to have this company be successful in any way, I needed to make a decision. That was definitely more of a rude awakening for me, and wasn't one that I clearly saw in the beginning. But after that, what happened was I remember thinking, you know what? I need to let go of all these other expectations that I think, are there, whether that's needing to feel like I need to hit a number because I put it in my business plan, which we all know. And you just said, they never work. And that's not what the answer was. The answer was figuring out a product that was going to work, a value proposition that was going to work. And that was when, we downsized the team. We moved into a really tiny office. We almost went from being bigger to smaller. And that's a hard moment, right? When you almost feel like you're making it. We had been in this big Techstars program and all of that. And I remember sort of going inwards with the team. We sort of went into hiding for 6 months, and we came up with a new idea. And finally, people were going to class. Once again, that product didn't fully work, as I feel like me and you have talked about many times, but that was more of a 1-month trial where people could try a bunch of classes. And there was positives in that because people were finally going to class, they were discovering, but they loved it so much that they were frauding us in the sense that they were buying the ClassPass over and over again. And you couldn't do that because it was obviously a breach of our contract with our studio providers that were giving us these classes. So we had this other problem to solve. And so to answer your question, at that point, actually, it was harder for us to see that the product was wrong, right? And I think my team at the time, remember them saying, we're making money, people are going to class, why do we have to change again? But there was a fundamental problem. And I think this is when vision and your why has to come back when you're a founder. Did you really go out and solve the problem that you went to, right? And I've been a lifelong dancer. It was the reason I created this company, not to give dance to everyone, but to give the feeling of what dance gave me to everyone. And that wasn't, once again, like with our second product, I didn't want to give that to someone for 30 days. I wanted to give them a membership, right? A lifestyle where they could do this. And that's when we started pivoting over to the subscription model, and this magic happened where, I always remember this moment and love it. I started getting emails from customers. And of course, like at this time as an entrepreneur, my name was Pam and I was doing customer service with my team. And there were these emails we would get from people that would just say how much this product gave them like so much confidence, and they like never felt like their fitness was fun before, and now they couldn't wait to get to class. And it was all of these words and messages that made me feel like I had really solved the problem I set out to. And until that moment, I hadn't gotten to that point, and it wasn't this moment where I had 10,000, reservations and this hockey stick growth, even though that's like definitely what happened right after. It was this really early period where these emails told me I had product market fit and I had solved the problem I went out to. And I think when you have a deep vision like that, going back to the adaptability, I've never been obsessed with my product idea. I was obsessed with solving the problem, right? And so even like through the pandemic, when you think about it, it's what's the problem you were trying to solve and how do you continue to solve it no matter what constraints are in your way, right? Whatever tree falls in front of you, you still need to get to the other side and you need to maneuver your way there. And I think for me, that's what this journey finally taught me, that it was about getting someone to class. Nothing else mattered. And so as long as people were moving and finding a way to, have this lifestyle, I was succeeding. And we had to do obviously whatever we needed to in terms of the business, the product, obviously working with our partners to make sure that the marketplace was healthy enough and our business was healthy enough to always make that the sustainable goal.
Like any startup endeavor, ClassPass has had its shares of peaks and valleys. And I would imagine, on any given day, it was, a roller coaster 1,000 times over. What for you personally was your steepest learning curves in terms of how you navigated these very, very different growth phases, especially when there's no playbook as an entrepreneur?
Oh, wow. I remember this phase where every single city in America sort of lit up with a competitor with like a copycat model of ClassPass, right? It was like, oh, there's a ClassPass in Austin. There's a ClassPass version in San Francisco. And I remember as an entrepreneur wanting to just say, I'm going to like move forward. I'm going to ignore it, right? Because I always truly believe like you never win a race by looking back. And so I remember that moment, and I went inwards in this concept that I was just thinking about what was my problem, what was my vision here, how was I going to solve it, and I knew I needed to move faster. Like we had this plan where we would launch a city a month, and I knew that wasn't going to work. And if we had done that, we were just going to end up with like a bunch of different versions of ClassPass across the US. And, and there's obviously there's pros and cons, obviously the way that both can transpire. But I remember thinking like, I created this product, and I always remember like, if I was like a designer or like someone who created a fashion product, I would want to protect that and bring that to everyone. And even though this is like tech and like it's not patented in the same way, I remember thinking like, I created this. I want to be able to bring this to people and have the ability to iterate and improve it, because I truly felt like I was the one and my team was the one who had really built this from the beginning. And so we decided that we would launch 15 more cities in the matter of 3 months. It was like kind of the craziest time. And we hired like 60 people in a weekend. I mean, obviously these are things that I had never done before. And we literally trained people on a Monday and flew them out on a Tuesday to different cities. These were things I'd never done before, and I think this is what execution is. This is what, moving fast looks like. And there were definitely things that weren't great during that time. Actually, one of my favorite things was our site used to have a 12 noon booking window, and it would always crash at 12 noon because everyone would log on. And as an entrepreneur, you learn to sort of be appreciative of these moments, especially when you had 3 years where no one went to class, to at least say like, this is a champagne problem. Like too many people are booking, our site is crashing. Like I remember learning to see the positives in some of these situations, even though we needed to fix it ASAP at the time. But I think when I look back, I just remember learning that like you said, it's the resiliency, it's learning to take something in quickly, make a decision, move forward. And that's the biggest advice I would give anyone. Make decisions quickly, whether they are, the hard ones to make or the easy ones to make, just make them.
I think you bring up sort of such an interesting dynamic, right? Where sort of you're literally moving at, warp speed to continue to grow and scale the company. But that doesn't always mean that it's things that you knew how to do before. It may take you to different stages of leadership that are untested or new to you personally. How did you learn to stay open, right, to the fact that you have to make decisions quickly? You're not always going to get them right in a way that continued to help you move forward versus, sometimes death by 1,000 cuts with all the challenges that are presented.
Well, I think this goes back to the other question, which is I knew what my true north was, right? I knew where I wanted to go. And so all the decisions, right, were either in line with that or they weren't, right? And it wasn't, oh, let me try 5,000 things. It was like, let me pick and prioritize, quickly figure out if those things work. If they don't, okay, we'll throw more things in. But are we moving closer to something, right? Doing a lot of different things that sort of move you forward, but not knowing where you're going is not what's going to help you get to a final answer or get to a product market fit or help you scale a business, right? And that's where I really always go back to you as a founder need to sort of know where you want to take the business, because it's really important actually for one person to lead that. Like I know there's like a lot of philosophies on this, but like one person needs to know where that train is going, and everyone obviously hopefully will be inspired to kind of follow in that vein. But if you're trying to go in 8 different places, it sometimes doesn't work.
You talked a lot about how important goal setting is for you in terms of really being able to dig deep into those priorities. How across the course of this journey did you learn to balance those setting of goals and really putting those mile markers down with also that flexibility that you talked about earlier that's so important in terms of being open to a business evolution?
Yeah, and one thing, I have a book coming out actually in February, and I go through this methodology that I created. I created it 6 years ago when ClassPass was just about to probably become that company that everyone heard of. It was like the first 3 months of the company. But like my personal life was like in shambles and I just felt like I was unhealthy and there were so many other things going on. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I just need to come up with a system to succeed, not just with my career and like with this company, but to succeed in life. Right. And I think we don't always take care of ourselves and other things that are important to us. And I realized I needed to apply my same way of prioritizing, reflecting, setting goals into every part of my life. And so I developed the strategy. It kind of starts with like reflecting on the last year, sort of setting dreams. And then it's a quarterly system. So it's a quarterly system across my entire life. And I feel like a quarter gives me enough time to like move forward on certain things, assess if I really care about something. There's times where I'm like, I think I want to start cooking. And then I'm like, nope, like I don't want to cook and I don't have time to cook and I receive nothing from it. And I'm like, forget it. Like stop feeling bad about doing something that I don't really want to do. And it sort of gives me this opportunity to try things and sort of feel free and make progress, but also go back to myself and make sure that I am moving forward. And I think back to the iteration conversation, like, we talk about companies pivoting and iterating, but as humans, we need to as well. I think like back to my career journey, it is so important to keep moving forward and to keep, evaluating where you are. And you never want to be comfortable, right? If things get comfortable, things get boring. And I think that's really like when we think about like ambitious, incredible people out there, right? And especially like the women, I feel like that I've seen, there are people who are willing to do the thing that is scary a little, right? And that comes from sort of having this system of believing in your decisions, believing in trying things that are unique and knowing that you might make mistakes along the way, but hey, I have a system that's going to catch me and I can always recalibrate. Nothing is permanent.
What takes you out of your comfort zone right now in business or as you navigate so many different dimensions of your life?
Well, with this announcement, I've actually decided that I'm going to be moving forward to pursue other opportunities. So this is a very bittersweet moment for me personally as a founder. Built this company and been working on it for a decade. So I probably have a little bit of that right now, just like that feeling of, wow, for 10 years, I've been solving this problem, thinking about it. And obviously I have unbelievable faith in the company that's moving this forward. But I think as a founder, there's just that feeling of, wow, like not, we're just so used to always knowing exactly what to do. And I have a bunch of other projects I'm working on, but I definitely want to take a break and sort of mentally figure out what I really want to be able to do with this next decade of my life.
You're someone who, though, is not afraid to have made career changes. You started off in consulting. You started a dance company. You obviously built this extraordinary company. I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that when you were building what's now become ClassPass, you had some reluctance in terms of striking out on your own and building this business in its entirety. Can you talk a little bit about what you've learned in this concept of how important you've said it is to bet on yourself?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not willing to bet on yourself, then who is going to? You have to be your biggest champion through all aspects of this. I think you can, and you have to surround yourself obviously with incredible people too. And I think that's been a part of definitely my success. I think about the people who supported me on this journey, whether it's investors, mentors, advisors, my family. And I think all of that helps me have a stronger backbone in who I am and being able to go for my dreams. It almost starts back to me learning to dance with my dance teacher when I was 3, just someone who, just looked at me to be like, if you work hard and like really want something, you go for it. And I think that's the backbone of who I am and why I don't kind of get scared in moments like that, because I know how to internally look and then move forward, right? I'm not going to do anything because someone else wants me to do it. I'm going to do it because I authentically believe I want to do it. And I think once you start living by that philosophy, there's just a sense of happiness and success that, is in front of you.
I read in an interview where you said that sometimes people seek out sort of mentors based on what they've built or their background, but you said you really need to find people who see what you're going to become and to remind you of that. What does that look like in practice as people are looking for mentors or those people in their lives who can really help them stay true to who they are or be a trusted sounding board in these critical moments?
Someone, Anjula Acharya, she's a incredible, investor and also an entrepreneur herself. She's a South Asian woman I met very, very early on in my journey, almost before I even decided to start the company. And I feel like, and I look back to her and she's somebody who just saw this trajectory for me before I even saw it. And when, with your question, it was more of, she had this belief in me that I could be anyone, right? Almost before I believed it and even did this company. And having that energy always around me, right? And finding people who help you feel that you will be able to overcome things versus feeling worried about them is so important, right? And so, of course, like you can meet the most amazing person in your industry. And obviously that is important to get the intelligence that you need to build your company. But having people, whether it's like your personal board of directors or what I call team life, just people who are really going to help you work through things to help you reach the next level of your life, right? And what you really want to do and not be scared. And of course, like, I think it's like back to what you're saying, it's they see your magic, right? And we all have a unique magic in this world, right? It's on us to sort of let it out. And sometimes we need the guidance of other people to help us unleash it. And so be really thoughtful about finding those people. It's not people who are making you worried and making you want to close in. It's people who are like, I can't wait to see them because I always feel so energized when you walk out of a meeting. Actually, like Fritz, who is the CEO of ClassPass, he's like another meeting. I remember when I met him as an investor, and David Tish, who was one of my current investors, introduced me to him. And usually when you meet with investors, like their job is to doubt you, right? Like their job is to find the holes in your business. So sometimes you leave being like, oh no, did I answer everything correctly? And like, did I make them believe in me? I left my meeting with Fritz being like, I think I just built the next Uber. And this was like literally in 2014, when ClassPass had 1,000 subscribers. It was so small. And even when I got to my desk, he sent me this email and he's like, I think you may have built the next Uber. Like we were just on this same page of this journey and this vision. And I think when you find people like that to surround yourself with, it makes it happen, right? You manifest it.
You said earlier how important it is for other women, for investors to see women building great companies and doing so at scale. And when we look at the entrepreneurial landscape, we talked about in a lot of respects, you're not a traditional entrepreneur. You're a woman. You're a woman of color. You closed your last funding round right before you were about to give birth. I think there's a lot of different stereotypes or leadership qualities that people far too often associate with what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Are there other ways that you've defied convention or traditional entrepreneurial models?
I think I really come down to no one can say anything against hard work and the information and data, right? At the end of the day, we built something that's incredible, right? And I think when I look at the numbers, you can't really say that that's not happened, right? And I think that's really what it comes down to is seeing these in practice, seeing the actualities of what this transpires into. It's almost like right? Because that's the best way to change people's minds. I think the more we see these, types of milestones that, female founders are reaching, the more it becomes normalized. And at the end of the day, I think like it's the work ethic and hustle. I'm the child of immigrants, right? My parents hustled so hard with everything that they had to do. And that's in my blood. So I never took any of it for granted. I never felt like, oh, okay, this is an easy thing to do. I mean, I became an entrepreneur before I feel like anyone was an entrepreneur. Like it was like that scary decision 10 years ago. I could count maybe like the number of entrepreneurs I knew on one hand. And I say that because I was like going to take a risk and I didn't know how to do it. But every single part of the moment, I would think about my parents and I would think about, the sacrifice they made. And that gave me, like I said, another part of this hustle and this resilience to say, I'm going to figure it out. Like I have a problem I want to solve. I'm not going to let anything stand in the way. And I'm capable of it. My parents gave me a great education. They, surrounded me with great people. Like if I don't do this, like that's because I don't want to, not because I couldn't do it.
Did you ever lack that self-confidence? Did you ever doubt your ability to be successful as an entrepreneur?
So it's an interesting question. I will say like growing up, I just faced like a lot of adversity just for being Indian and all of that. And I think those things sort of like stay with you as you kind of, get older and you start your career. But I think what happened for me is this confidence I would get from doing what I loved, which was dancing, just made me feel so alive. And it made me feel like I wanted to just give a gift to the world. And I think when you operate in that means and aren't chasing, power and aren't chasing fame and aren't chasing greed, you're just giving. And so nothing like if you're operating from a place like that, you're always doing something good, right? In the world. It's not like I was trying to like get rich or like do one of those things. Of course, my investors wouldn't say the same thing, but you know what I mean? It was one of those things where I think if you're operating from a really good place, any part of the journey is still progress, right?
If you were to speak with an aspiring entrepreneur at this moment in time, is there one or two pieces of advice that you would give them as they're thinking about whether they should launch their business or whether their idea has merit?
Get started. I mean, that is the biggest thing, is put something out there. If you can't make it happen sort of easily and like make the trend, I always think with the marketplace, like if you can't make the transaction happen without all the technology isn't going to do it either. I think get started is the first thing. And then the second thing I would say is, surround yourself with great people, right? Whether that's co-founders or investors or mentors, like find someone to go on the journey with, because it's a hard journey, and I am very lucky. I've had great people around me at different phases of this entire journey that have supported me, or it can be really lonely and you face a lot of moments where, you're like, can I move forward? And I think when you have somebody who cares the same amount as you do, it's just easier to go through it together.
I think that is very true. And in terms of, again, how do you prepare yourself for those really, dark moments or those moments of doubt? So often, if you have the people around you, if you have the mission and the people around you, it creates such a difference in terms of the ability to just keep pressing on, even in the face of such uncertainty. Last question for you, Payal. The show is the takeaway. You've shared, I think, some really practical and also inspiring insights for people who are thinking about their own leadership journey, for entrepreneurs and the like. If people were to take a look at your life and what you've built and how you've built this company, is there one takeaway that you would hope that they walk away with when looking at your story?
Deeply care about your why and the problem you're trying to solve, because that's really what's going to make you happy, on top of hopefully everything else that you are trying to get from your journey.
Well, I love that. So many people are grateful that you focused on your why. You built this extraordinary business. Congratulations on this next chapter, both for the company, both for you and what it represents personally, but also what it represents as such a major feat for a female founder. Payal, thanks so much for joining us today, and best of luck with all that's ahead.
Thank you so much, Moira. I appreciate all your support in this journey.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you next week.